Otherwise, if you lose that, then it's ineffective. But yeah, brilliant. All right, thanks, James, for the video showcase, the first one we've done so far, and for everyone's questions. So what we'll do now is we'll move on to the hot seats. And Claire, if you're ready, but there's nothing to be ready for on this occasion other than to answer a few quick questions. So yeah. So first question, in terms of your business, in 10 words or less, how would you describe what you do and how you add benefit to your target audience?
So I literally hold people's hand through their travel booking process and experience. So essentially, I would take a brief from a customer or a client as to the type of trip that they're looking to take. I then put some ideas together and then present them, taking into account all their. This is far more than. Did you say 10 words?
Yeah, 10 words. Yeah, I've lost count.
Sorry, you did put me on the spot then. 10 words. I create itineraries for busy professionals.
Okay, thank you. Alex is feeling rather happy at this stage because he did his in 11 words, and he's just dying for people to be doing more than 11 words. So I think he's feeling chuffed at this stage. I'm only joking. Brilliant. And so I'm from a marketing perspective, I'm a great fan of knowing who your target audience is and being clear on it. So for the rest of the group here, if we were to go out and talk to potential customers for you, how would you explain in maybe 5 or 6 words or less who the target audience is in terms of the business type, maybe, and maybe the job role of the person that you need to speak to? How would you define who your target audience is? Again, in kind of a 5 to 6 word or roughly around about that sort of length.
Well, I'm looking for corporate travelers. So that's international companies, decision makers within those companies, usually in procurement roles or office manager roles or senior PA roles.
Okay. I think that really does help because people in the group can then start thinking, oh, I know somebody who's in that role, or I know somebody who's in that industry. How many years have you been in business for?
This is a new business. I started it just in December, so mid-pandemic, but I have 40 plus years of experience in working in the travel industry, so I feel well able to do it.
Okay. And I think I probably know the answer to this, but what's your biggest challenge been? I guess setting up during COVID with travel must be a self-fulfilling question, I suppose. But what's been your biggest challenge?
The constant uncertainty and changing of the rules. It's impossible to work with it at the moment.
Okay. But I'm guessing for you, that's going to, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's going to get much easier and much better as time goes by.
Yeah,
sure.
We just need some clear guidance from our Transport Secretary.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of the group here, probably a bit of a tough question, but how do you think you could add value to the rest of the group in terms of what you offer, your services and your experience?
Well, listening to everybody and what they do, it seems that we've got a similar target audience in terms of the people we're looking to speak to. So I would hope that particularly business travel is very much a relationship. So you do build relationship with those people, and then hopefully you'll be able to introduce other particularly sort of coaches or strategic planning like James, that sort of thing. I'm sure that would be an easy conversation.
Okay, thank you. And there's only a couple more questions to go. Then what we'll do is we'll hand it over to the rest of the group for them to ask any questions that they've got. Just kind of put a bit of a lightheartedness on it. Do you have any funny stories to share, funny experiences, or maybe craziest places around the world that maybe you've sold tickets to for people to go to travel to?
Craziest places, did you say?
Yeah, any fun facts or anything that we can relate to, or it's a bit more memorable in terms of it's not strictly work, but just some sort of fun fact.
Oh gosh, again, I think that needs a bit of thinking. I mean, there's always the funny situations, particularly with computers, because sometimes computers will throw up an itinerary that really isn't logical, like from going to Birmingham via Belfast and things like that. So if you're not familiar with your geography, then it is hard to put a trip together.
Yeah, I bring that up because I remember, Steve, you're supposed to be doing the hot seats, or you were down to do the hot seats today. And I think when Steve did his hot seats last, I can't remember where it was, but it was somewhere in India that you ended up being stranded. So that was quite a funny story, and I still remember it from the hot seats that we did. So brilliant. And in terms of the actual group here, so we'll kind of ask what how you could benefit, or how you could help the group out. What would, if you were to ask for one specific bit of help from the rest of the group here, what would that be? You know, if they could go away and do, let's imagine they could go away after this and spend 10 minutes focusing on doing something for you, what would that one thing be that would really, really help?
Well, just to think about their contacts and who might benefit from a conversation with me.
Okay, all right.
Simple as that, really.
I think there's a common theme, because I think a lot of people, their one question is, their answer is around that, contacts and who we know. Brilliant, thank you very much. So does anybody have any questions for Claire about her business and ideal customer?
So Claire, you talk about the corporate world. Do you also deal with people's holidays as well?
I do, and I particularly at the moment, because there isn't so much business travel unless it's really essential. So yes, I can certainly help with people's holidays, and have a great wide scope of suppliers that travel counsellors deal with.
What are your thoughts on Max's? I mean, it's early days. You've only had a sort of an hour's exposure. What are your thoughts on the group?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, I have only had an hour's exposure. Obviously, I'm a BNI member. I'm used to that format, so it's slightly different. I have done a lot of networking in the last 6 months. So yeah, I'd say it's two. I mean, having the conversation with you, it's an interesting concept. My only concern, being in an open conversation, is that because I'm part of a franchised business and the payments to me are made from the franchise in a very sort of ordered way, because the first thing is to protect the customer's money. So, we don't get paid until the trip has been completed and everything has gone to plan. So I don't know what the financial commitment is from a referral might be and how that might influence it, because I did see something in the presentation about, you pay on customer money, which wouldn't necessarily happen for me. So that's my only sort of, maybe a stumbling block for me.
I'm sure we can work that one out. Great.
Thanks, Claire. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, Claire, that how do you, I don't want to make it sound like a personal question, but just in terms of what you just said and the situation, I mean, how are you actually coping in terms of cash flow? Because it sounds quite a precarious, time right now for you.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, back in January 2020, lost track of time, I was managing 2 teams looking after 23 city law firms, including one Magic Circle firm, all their travel.
Yeah.
And then in March, absolutely nothing. I mean, I had the virus, and then I was, put on furlough and then took voluntary redundancy. So luckily I've had the redundancy to just, to cut, because I do think that actually it's given me an opportunity to, work for myself and to look after the customers that I want to look after. But yes, you just got to hold your nerve.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, as you say, if you're waiting for the trip to be completed before you get any payment, that's puts an extra layer on it.
Well, exactly. And what we do, and what we've sort of prided ourselves at Travel Counsellors, is that we make sure that there's ultimate flexibility, that anything, as much as we can arrange, is cancelable right to the last minute. because people don't feel confident to book things at the moment. So we want to try and give them that confidence and reassurance that we can just rearrange things if it's not going to happen, or you know, work around the rules where we can. And we've worked with our suppliers so much so that we've dropped some suppliers that haven't, you know, refunded on time and that sort of thing.
Right,
So,
okay.
but yeah, I mean, the travel industry has worked hard and literally earning no money because they've had to work on the refunds, and they've received bad press about the refunds when really it's out of their control most of the time.
Can I just ask you one more thing, Claire? Sorry. Do you specialise in a, sorry for already mentioned this, by the way, 7:30 is very early for me. So, do you specialise in a particular location? Do you kind of like your speciality, your knowledge, you know, is there one particular area, continent, or anything that you would say that you specialise in?
Well, no, I mean, I think, sorry to put a similarity with James here, but it's very much, I don't necessarily need to know the place inside out. I put a strategic plan to get you there within the time frame, allowing for contingencies and, you know, taking into account your preferences as to the type of hotel that will suit you, and, you know, align that as well to a family trip. You know, it's impossible, even if you had traveled everywhere, especially post-pandemic, you know, is that lovely little restaurant still going to be in business? So, you know, you can't overpromise, but you have to, you know, take their sort of take the facts and then put them into a plan, very much like James. So yeah.
Right. Thank you.
It's like you're saying there, Claire. You know, I mean, we work with travel business. In fact, I helped set up what is now known as the Globe Travel Centre. It started out as the Kerala Travel Centre, specialist within that location in southern India. You know, their sort of biggest challenges, well, they've had huge challenges, as I'm sure you're more than aware of. I mean, our whole approach and strategy with them went from a sales directive, you know, to get to that, to being very much a nurturing element, working with existing, you know, communicating to existing or potential customers to keep them there, to keep their head above the parapet while this is all going on. And hopefully when it all, you know, pitters down, they're the ones that sort of rise from the ashes, I suppose, from that side. But what I was going to ask you is, you know, so you're looking for, are you also looking for introductions to like travel companies, or is that done through the franchise?
Yes, it is done very much through the franchise. However, I have introduced niche companies to travel counsellors, and once they go through the vetting process, then if they're credit worthy and they're up to it, then we put them on our supplier portfolio. But they do have quite a strict vetting process, which is good, which is one of the reasons why I chose them. Yeah, that's
what it's all about. Especially, you know, it's got to be that reassurance. It's got to be that thing, because, you know, times of uncertainty, we're all familiar with that. But from the travel side, I mean, that's just been a total turned it on its head. But what we do with businesses about the engagement, and it sort of stems back to James's thing, that the video promotion, for example, is something where that would be presented once people are further down the buyer's journey, sort of really at the decision stages of the buyer's journey. But earlier on, the awareness and the consideration part is where people are making choices, where problems are being identified and solutions are being presented in there. Actually getting in there and actually communicating with them in those earlier stages has been something that's been become more and more key over the years, being more recognised. I think a lot of people were just thinking, right, let's just get to a sale, but it's like, well, 1 minute, we need to actually fill the top of that funnel, and then we actually need to lead them through that funnel right the way through the process. So
I think, folks, we need to move on.
Yeah. Thanks, James. You beat me to it by about half a second there. Yeah, no, we do need to move on. But thanks, Claire. It's always great to understand other people's business in more in depth. So hopefully you found the hot seat of use and of interest.